All right, so welcome everyone to Cobots and Frame putting Figma to shame. Honorable mention to John for that title. It was a little bit longer, but we trimmed it back for, let's say, for brevity. Yeah. All right. So let's go on to the next one. All right. So the first one is, what do you find most challenging about working with visual diagrams? Now, I know some of you have worked with them a lot more than others, but really keen to hear what challenges do you face? What are the things that you really don't like about it? I mean, making connections is just hard in life. Oh, who said moving them sucks? I got something for you. I got something for you coming up later. Not really WYSIWYG. Yeah. Positioning is hard. Yep. Dynamic widths, responsive layouts. Text. Oh, look, text with non-transparent background. That is the bane of everyone's existence. Even Scotty's. Literally, the only way that we can fix that is to write shaders. Like, we gave it a go once or twice before, and it didn't look great. One day we will get that. One day we will get there. It's like writing code without speed of writing code. Interesting. Anchoring. So I'm assuming that whoever wrote anchoring, frowny face, is saying they don't like anchoring. Is that correct? Is that someone here? Yeah, you don't like the anchoring? Pain in the ass? Yeah. So we actually had this discussion the other day. So anchoring, like positioning and anchoring, is a almost like an older style of defining UIs. It was very, very popular when people were designing desktop UIs. But obviously when things went web and everything went a bit more flexible and responsible, we moved away from that. Generally clunky, inconsistent X and Y. All right, we need auto align. Okay, yep. More snapping. Yeah, look, the real reason I asked you this question was so that we knew what to work on next. It's not, but that was something that I thought. I was like, actually, there's some good ideas here. All right, well, that's probably enough for now. So let's move on to the next one. All right. So what are we going to be going through today? So firstly, frames and frame grids. We're going to be talking about multiple containers, bulk editing, and what's coming next. So I guess the last sort of 3 to 6 months probably haven't seen really any major big Codebots updates, and it's because we've been working on lots and lots of low-level stuff. The big one being the first two. So what we're going to do today is first I'm going to put my beer down. Where did I leave your little book, Lindsay? My little instruction manual. Kitchen bench. All right. Well, Lindsay, do you want to jump over into our first little demonstration? So the first thing that we're going to talk about is, because you kind of need to understand it, is what is our frame, what is a frame grid, and what is the difference. So this guy here, pretty basic box, right? Now, if we were making that box, we would probably say we've got a box that starts at 0, 0, and it's however much high and how much width, and we have another one that's how much high and how much width. Now, the overall size of that the bounding box that calculates the size of that entire shape is something we used to automatically calculate that. So when you were positioning your shape, we would be doing that based on your bounding box. That had its own problems. So what we decided was we were going to go to what we have called frames. And we've said that rather than us automatically calculating what this box is, because that does have its own problems, you are now going to tell us what your outermost frame is. So in this case here, you can say your frame is 120 by whatever it was, 300 or something. That doesn't mean that you can't put things outside of your frame. You can still define a frame that is 120 by 120 and have stuff that goes outside of that. Why you might want to do that, you'll kind of see an example of why later. But here's an example, 120 by 120 with just little things sticking out. For those who like sitting at the lunch table, it might look a little bit like a puzzle piece. Now, why would I be talking about puzzle pieces? It's a good question. All right, so that is a frame. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is frame grids. So when it comes to positioning shapes, so positioning all your boxes inside your shape, as I said, you would be defining X, Y positions, you'd be defining widths and heights, all of these annoying things. So what we said was, why don't we take that frame and break it up into a grid? So this shape here, Lindsay has made, has been broken up into 4 columns and 4 rows. And those lines there are something he's added into the shape. They're not a visual indicator that exists for you, unfortunately, but we got something similar for you. And what he's done here is he's got a box. And he said this box is going to exist in the 3rd column in the 3rd row. And that's all he's had to say. He hasn't have to said that this is, 100 pixels down and 100 pixels across and it's 50 pixels wide or whatever. So that has made that a lot more simple. Now, the next part then is, this is allocations. Yeah. So this grid here right now doesn't scale. And you're thinking, well, that's kind of pointless. You need your shapes to be able to be responsive generally. So what we have here is scaling. So you can define, so those that are familiar with Flex and CSS Grid are familiar with like FR units. That is essentially what's happening here. For any given row or column, you can define its flex factor, right? So you could say that this one here, I think these ones are all uniform. Yeah, so this is all 1 everywhere. So the flex factor of 1 for everything. And you can see everything changes. This box in here is automatically resizing to fit inside of its cell. So you're not having to define all of that annoying thing there. This one here, I believe you've got everything turned off except just this one column and 1 row is allocated. Yeah. Starting to look a little bit cooler now. So you can start to see, you can have different aspects of your shape that are fixed and other areas that are more flexible and responsive. So that's starting to look really, really cool. Now, yes, you could achieve this with everything that we already did give you, with complex anchorings and all that sort of thing, made it a lot harder. But now, a lot more simple. But there was one thing that you couldn't do before. So this shape here is a little bit like an entity shape. And Lindsay, if you scale this shape a little bit, yeah, put some text in, you got a text box at the top. You just pull this around a little bit. All right, you can see this top one here kind of just stays. This one here stays. These ones here are flexing. So flex factors are 0 at the top and 1 down there. Now, currently, if you were to try to make a shape like this, and you put a bunch of text in here that overflowed, what's it going to do? It's just going to cut off. We had no way of being able to do anything with that. But if Lindsay puts a boatload of text in here now, it's actually wrapped. And look at this.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea of this being in this cell, or in this case, this is spanned across 2 cells. The fact that it's like this means that we can do different calculations essentially based on its subframe, if you will. Right? We can do calculations on the cell or cells in which it spans and do different calculations around widths and heights and all that sort of thing. So this net can now push all these other things down while maintaining all those other aspect ratios and flex factors and such. So that is very, very cool. Flex factor. Right. We're going to recreate a little grid? Yeah. We're going to show you how to create a little one. Yeah, we're going to come back to these other shapes in a minute. All right. So one of the things you will notice as well is we have actually really, really simplified this part. It's still boxes and boxes. We haven't quite got away from that yet. However, we've really, really simplified it. First thing you'll notice is layers. So we've sort of taken inspiration from many of the other tools, and you can now define an arbitrary number of layers. So you can put different things in different layers so that you can control how they overlap. Now, inside of a layer is where you put your image elements or image components. I'm not sure, I can't remember if we've actually come up with a proper name for that yet. But everything just exists in this layer. Boxes, ellipses, text boxes, SVGs, images, everything. Even containers, which we'll talk about in a minute. Everything just exists in a layer now. So that's it. That's as deep as your nesting's really going to go, I think. or maybe one more level if you've got like font in a text box or something like that. But that's about as deep as your boxes and boxes go. All right, so Lindsay's created a square here. Now, the first thing you need to do, as I said, is you need to define that frame size. Now, that frame size is defined on the shape up here, and Lindsay has put it over here, 150 by 150. And you can see on the right-hand side here now, he's defining his grid. So right now he has 3 rows that are 50 pixels each. He's got 3 columns that I assume are also going to be 50 pixels each. And the factor on the right-hand side, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So this is a 3 by 3 grid where each cell is about 50-50 and will flex in a uniform way across all axes. So Lindsay, why don't you put another little box in there? Maybe make it red or something so we can really see it. Now you got this cool little UI up the right here, which was literally added yesterday. We were using it, we were going through this demo, and we were like, this is hard to use. We need a better UX. So this little representation on the right-hand side is a to-scale representation of the columns and rows that you've defined. So if this was, 10 pixels, 50 pixels, and 100 pixels, you'd actually see that. We've also got a little representation of the grid lines. Not that you really need to worry too much about them. But what you can do now is you can take this box, and if you click in one of these cells here, you'll see it's in that cell. Right? And you can just move that around. So easy, so easy. Now, you can also make things, as I said, span multiple cells just by clicking and dragging. All right, what happened there? That was a bit odd. Nothing really looked like it changed. Because what's happened there is we've said, hey, it exists in that span of cells, but it still exists at 0, 0, and it's still 50 by 50. So it's still like it's still there. It's still in its spot. We now have this neat little match frame grid button or match frame cell. So now, whatever, Kayla is clapping so hard. Now, wherever you select, it's going to automatically fill its width and height to match. Now, that's equivalent of 100% width, 100% height. We don't have alignment yet. It's coming. But yes, we've got that soon. All right, yeah, there you go. So Lindsay's just been adjusting the frame. You can sort of see it adjusts there. Yeah, so a really easy way to start building up a lot more complex shapes to position them and define how they move around and flex with each other. All right, I think that's it on those. Did we miss anything on them? Yeah, so that's sort of the next, yeah. So the next thing that we're going to start talking about is multiple containers. Now, you might hear us say child containers. We're trying to drop the word child from the front, but we've said child containers for years. So if you hear me say child container, pretend I said container. All right, so what is a container? So using the old entity example here that a lot of us are quite used to, a container was where you would drop the things that live inside. So in the case of the entity, that might be attributes or behaviors or things like that. So it's that area that can contain children. Hence why we called it a child container, but container is a much more simple word. Now, historically, we've only been able to give you one container. In your structural, you would say, hey, I have all these containment references, but they would all just go into one container. That didn't work. Well, I mean, it worked good enough, but it wasn't great. So again, we take the Gen 3 example where we may have attributes or behaviors that might live inside of this shape. Now, we just had to dump them all in one, and we did, and we kind of just like moved all the behaviors to the top or bottom just to kind of group them. But now you can actually define individual container areas. And again, they are just like boxes and everything else. You can click on one of these and you can put it in anywhere in your frame that you like. And it, responds everything just like that box did. Now, what you can do is in your structural diagram, you can say which containment references go in which container. So that allows you to separate out. Yeah, if we have a look at entity here. Yep, we've said entity is in the attribute is in the attributes container, behaviors is in behaviors. So if we look at the preview here for this one, anytime we add a behavior, it's going to go in one box. And anytime we add an attribute, it's going to go in a different box. And because those are individual cells in that frame grid, they're going to scale independently and all that type of thing, which is really cool. Yep, you can see the attributes can go in attribute, but can't go in there. And you notice those little drop targets as well. Those little sort of drag and drop ghost thingies are there as well. All definable in the visual diagram as well. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And necessary. But for what? Are we going to do anything else on that one, Lindsay? Yeah, I think entity to have behaviors and attributes. Yeah, pre-made. Yep. All right, that looks pretty good. All right. So the next thing that we want to show you is kind of like where this is leading to, where this dynamic sizing and multiple containers is kind of going towards and why we kind of built it. Lindsay, can you show us Blockly? Some of you here may be familiar with Blockly or other derivatives of it like Scratch or Kayla, what's the name of that robotic thing you were using? Micro something. Yep. So this is kind of like puzzle pieces that you snap together, drag and drop, different things can go into different areas. So something like an if-else block. There's the if block and the else block, two containers. Okay, all right. We've got this really neat way where things only in this area expand and contract when you put things in them. You've got these strange little divots that seem to go beyond the sort of natural definition of the shape. All things that I kind of just showed you earlier. So, Lindsay, why don't you show us what Kayla's been working on? So these are all shapes that have been designed by Kayla in the Codebots platform. Do you want to zoom in just a little bit, Lindsay, so we can see a little bit better? Oh, I just meant like, I didn't mean the whole thing. That's okay. That's what I wanted. Yep. Notice the neat little outlines around everything. That was a fun thing for Kayla to work out how to do. But yeah, so what we can see here is things starting to nestle in, things clicking together. Really, really awesome, design on these shapes here, Kayla. So as you can see, we can start building out some really cool things that end up getting quite complex. And of course, all of this is a model, which is really, really cool. Now, of course, the question is, why are we trying to recreate Blockly? Firstly, it was a really good example of really good different, of ways that shapes could expand and contract and all that type of thing. So that was a really good example there. But I'm going to come back in just a little bit and show you sort of why we've been trying to build this. For the moment, we're going to show you one more of the new features, which is bulk editing. There's a bit of stuff going on here. Now, it may not mean what you think it means, or it may mean exactly what you think it means. Nick, where are you? Where are you? There you are. You said something before about copying visual libraries, and it's a pain in the ass when you have to relink everything, isn't it? Maddie is quite familiar with this model. This is the ISMS model. We're going to break it for you, and then we're going to fix it. All right. So that meta model is connected to a visual library called ISOVisuals. Now, let's say you wanted to, let's say that was a public library and you wanted to duplicate it and start modifying it. To change everything over is an absolute pain. Lindsay has this alternate ISOVisuals here. What we now have is the ability for you to bulk swap out what shapes are being used. We click on, say, that particular shape. Doesn't really matter which one you click on, but you can hit that bulk edit button. What you now see is a list of all your current shapes that exist. And for each of them, you have a drop down of all the possible shapes which you could change it to. And on the right-hand side is your default container. So now that we have multiple containers, we kind of need to know, hey, if you don't define where a relationship goes, give us at least a default. Now that's a bit cumbersome. So Lindsay has made this beautiful little magic button, which will go through and find the best match. So this best match here, now obviously in this particular case, the names are identical because we've literally duplicated the visual library. So for something like moving a library to a different org, for doing like a C# bot migration, that'd be perfect, right? However, we've gone a step further. Lindsay's done some incredibly smart matching. It's done stuff around like string distances and fuzzy matching and all that beautiful stuff. So that what happens is it will try and find the best and the closest named thing. So even if your names are a bit different, chances are it's going to get it right. And also it has matched the text box bindings as well, which is always a pain. If you change from like main box to child box, like if you're using the shared libraries, and they have, one says selected name and one says just name or something, that all gets auto-matched as well, which is really, really cool. And not just that, let's say that you really mess up and you delete your visuals, or you're referencing like the latest version. Delete ISO visuals too, Maddie. No, sorry, not Maddie. Lindsay. I'm just thinking about you every time I'm touching this diagram. So if we look at one of these shapes up here, it actually knows now what visual library that original shape came from. And it says, hang on a minute, that thing doesn't exist anymore, but at least it tells you what it is now. Previously, it never did that. It would just say unset. And you'd be like, oh crap, what am I doing here? But at least now well, it was, it was main box. No, I now know, okay, that needs to be primary box or something like that. So we're doing a lot there to try and help with that, because we know that is a big frustration. In a similar vein, while we don't have it yet, when you're in the meta models and the models, and you've maybe renamed something from your meta model, you've changed it from entity to class or something like that. Now that would normally break your model because your model's still referencing that. But something we are going to be adding very soon is the ability for you is that same sort of interface will be there as well. So if you get anything that's like, hey, I don't know what this is, you're going to have this nice bulk update thing to be able to update everything that was pointing to entity to now be pointing to class. Things like that. All right. I think that was all I was going to show with the bulk editing. Actually, did we take a checkpoint? Probably should have taken a checkpoint. It's in Gamma, Maddie. It's in Gamma, don't worry. So this stuff's all still in Gamma. There is still some bugs that we need to fix. So this stuff isn't quite available yet, but it will be available soon. All right. So I think the last thing I sort of wanted to talk about was why are we doing all this and where is it leading? Lindsay, could you show? We're going to give you guys a little teaser. Let's maybe look at this one. This is the good one. That's all right. It's the same as our diagram editor, except ours is better. Oh, all right. Yeah, can you get rid of that welcome to Figma rubbish? Anyway, okay, don't matter. All right. Yeah, just delete it. Nice. Oh, hacker man. All right. So I'm not going to go into big detail around this, but this is a mock-up of what the diagramming is potentially going to be looking like. I don't know when. It's actually a massive job, but we're doing it. So what we've done here is we've actually taken the visuals and the meta models and we brought them into one diagram to rule them all. So what you have here is an entity And then you can build out your entity using things like boxes and all sort of thing. All that WYSIWYG editing that you guys have been asking for. It's finally going to be available. So you would just literally drag your box. All right, drag a text box in just to be able to, and then you can tell it what cell it's going to be and all these other things. We haven't quite worked all that out. Your whole sort of set of layers here down the side. This is really cool. This is inheritance that you guys will be used to from the structural. You're also going to be able to inherit visuals as well. So if you have a shape that's mostly the same but looks slightly different, depending on what type of thing it is, you'll be able to actually do some things there as well, which is really cool. You move a little bit across to the right, Lindsay. Yeah, to that next one. All right. So one of the big things that we're looking for is more interactive, more dynamic, more powerful diagrams, including the ability to actually start defining your own custom logic inside of the diagram. So for example, you might say, hey, if they've added 0 attributes to this entity, the entity's red because it looks invalid. Once they add one, it might go green to go, yep, it's all good. Things like that. Being able to do sort of like a query logic. So you guys know right now when you have a reference to something and that drop-down list is full of everything and you're like, God, how do I search this? Well, you'll now be able to define your own custom logic in there to say what is going to be in that drop-down box. You can say, hey, this is referencing this subset of things, something that I know OPS really, really wish that they had. Yeah. To the right, Lindsay, is there anything else there? Oh, this is just showing the model now based on that meta model and things like that. So yeah, not too, yeah. So as just a quick sneak peek at some of the things that are happening. Oh, this one down here, Lindsay. Yep. So we're going to have a way that you can swap between on that combined meta model and visual. There's going to be a way to swap between the visuals and the underlying data that's underneath it, and might look something like this. So some sort of little toggle that kind of goes back and forth. I think that's kind of it. You'll notice that there is folders here, but those folders will be coming soon to the current version as well. Again, thank you, TMR. And the only other thing, if you wanted to scroll up, Lindsay, you can work out how to use, what was it, Figma. Yep. Look at this really nice, neat dashboard. I don't know where that dashboard is coming from. Oh, wait, I do, the metrics app. Yep. So, sneak peek. Good luck, Chris. Yep. So again, using the metrics app, we're going to start feeding stuff in through here. Now, I think that the plan is hopefully, we're not quite sure how we're going to work it out yet, but you'll be able to somehow define your own metrics for each of your applications and have them show up here as well. Because, right now, like if you think, what are the pure Codebots metrics? It's like number of diagrams, number of times you've run a pipeline, success rate of pipelines, maybe. Like they're the core Codebots ones that we're going to be able to show you. But we also want you guys to be able to define your own stuff based on your own requirements, all that type of thing. So that's where those sorts of diagrams and stuff are going to come into play as well. Yeah. So there you go. I think that's sort of pretty much everything I wanted to show. Yeah. I just went through everything, I think. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. All right. Another Menti. Now, what are you most excited about? Out of all the things that we've shown you today, you can vote multiple, and I encourage you to vote multiple. There is a section for questions at the end as well. I also encourage you not to just vote for everything. Like, look, I know it's all really exciting stuff. It's all really, 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 really cool. Yeah. Nearly drank from the microphone. All right, okay. Bulk editing seems to be the winner there. Everyone's keen on the bulk editing. That's obviously been a frustration for a while. We do. Yeah. Frames and grid coming up third, second. Yep. Yep. All right. Very cool. Next slide, Lindsay. I don't know if there's any questions, if anyone's added anything. Oh, yeah, no. What's the point? Yeah. So that was me. I was showing you the new UI stuff. Yep, no questions. Lovely. All right. So does anybody actually have any questions? All right, Shannon, what's your question? So the question was, are we going to be producing some sort of templates of shapes or base shapes? Short answer is probably not. So we do have those couple of public libraries like basic shapes, stickies, connections. We'll probably continue to maintain that. But at the end of the day, for the most part, we found that everyone is taking those and copy pasting them and then tweaking them. So at the end of the day, probably not. We're probably not going to be doing that unless there's a demand for it. But at this stage, there really isn't. So yeah. So Lindsay was just saying you'll probably always have access to one that you can at least copy paste. Yeah, somewhere, in someone else's diagram or something like that. Any other questions from our audience here? Oh, there's a question up here. Does bulk edit help with our copy forward approach to reuse? Yes. Short answer, yes. Long answer, definitely.
I think if you were going to copy a project now, and use something like C# bot, the one we have, I'm not sure what org it's in, maybe in WorkingMouse. I think the best way to do it at the minute is to use pipelines to copy the meta models and then manually reconnect a visual library to it. You should be able to copy it now with meta models, copy the visual library in, and then use the bulk edit thing to reconnect your stuff in probably under 60 seconds. So if that answers the question, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So 60 minutes would probably turn to 60 seconds, just to give you a rough idea. Or hours would turn to minutes. That's the kind of thing that we're doing here. Yep. Does that work if you're copying across orgs? So the question was, So the question was, if you're copying, if you got bulk edit and it shows the old name, does that work across orgs? Yes, it does. Yep. So
yeah, if it's a library that you don't have access to and it's somehow referring to it, it comes up and it knows. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So we did think of that, or rather Lindsay thought of that. Will there be some kind of quick reference manual? Or just manual at all, documentation at all, anything? Yes. Yes, there will be. Don't know when, but there will be. So thanks to the work of no, it's coming soon. Yeah, coming. That's why I never said a date, mate. I said soon. Can't take me to court for soon. The work that I think Jake been working on the automation, like documentation automation, I think it was, or Declan? Yeah, all of EOS. Yeah, all of it. Okay, so props to EOS then. So EOS has been working on a way to automate documentation and sort of manuals. So we are going to be basically stealing all of their work. No, we're not stealing. We're graciously copying forward. And we're going to be putting together lots more things on how to do stuff. So yeah. How large a model can frame support? So there is anecdotal evidence that it is mildly faster than what is currently there. Now I want to stress anecdotal.
Anecdotally, it's twice as fast.
Anecdotally. Allegedly. Hearsay. Yeah. Though to be perfectly honest, we haven't really stress tested it majorly. But we will be sort of in the coming months. But as we said, it should be about the same speed, if not faster.
Yeah, Scotty did a lot of rewriting of how things are loading and how the data structures are storing everything, and it's set up to work a lot faster. We might not achieve that speed right now, but because it's sort of rebuilt from the bottom up, we have that stuff in place now to optimize it further. And anecdotally already faster, so answered.
Why don't have all set button for bulk edit? It needs one. Yep.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah. When Lindsay and I were going through this before, and we were sort of like, he was going tick 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 tick. I'm like, bruh, we need to just have a one button up the top. But yes, coming soon, TM. Put it in the no. What's up, Shannon? The question from Shannon was when this does get released into prod. Yeah, TMR has a lot of models, a lot of visuals, a lot of things. So the question is, when this goes into prod, what do I need to do to my model, if anything? Lindsay, do you want to answer that one?
So I have made a migration, which should cover a lot, probably 95% of fixing your model. It's not done.
Anecdotally, 95%.
Quite well.
Footnote asterisk.
Yeah, that's sort of one of the major things we're still working on right now is making sure that you don't have to remake everything.
Can I just add something in there for you, Lindsay? Just so everyone's aware, all of your models are currently available in Gamma. So you can jump into the Gamma environment, check out your models, and report any issues that you're seeing back to the team. And that would be massively helpful.
Yes, we encourage you to please do so. Jump in.
Everyone can do that right now.
Yeah, we've been working with the solution architects for the last week or so. But yeah, please jump into Gamma, check your models, and if you have problems with them, let us know, because the more problems we pick up now, it means the more we can add to our migration and that you won't have to do later. Love you too. Next. Is that all? Oh, that is all of them. Yeah, nice. All right. So any other further questions? New question came in. It was sick. Number one medal. Yeah.
Thank
nice.
you. Yes.
Thank you. Scotty, did you have a? Sorry. Yeah. The text wrap. Yep. What happens when there's more text than object? That's fine.
Just keeps getting taller. Yeah.
It'll just keep getting taller.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just magic. That's all I can say. Magic. Yeah. Hayden. Does it auto truncate? No.
You mean truncate with like an ellipsis? No.
So if you can turn off the word, wrapping, you can turn off the auto resizing, and you'll get the current behavior where if it just flows beyond the end of the text box, it gets cut off. So no, there's not sort of auto ellipses or anything like that.
If you really want that, if you have a lot of use case for it, just let us know, though, because I don't think that would be that hard.
It would not be that hard for us to make.
Yeah.
Anecdotally.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Scotty, I'd like to give a really big round of applause to Scotty and to Lindsay, because they have predominantly done most of the work on this. Sam and I have been fluffing around with fun little UI and infrastructure stuff while these guys have been getting in and doing all this really hard work. So I'd just like to acknowledge them. They've just done an incredible amount of work. I mean, this started. When did this start, Scotty? When did you start doing frames?
So I finished the first, I don't know when I started. I think it was 3 months before I left to go on my trip in November. Just before, the day before I had to jump, the day before I finished, we just had frames starting to work in a usable state for the whole of November.
So talking like September?
Yeah. So it represents about 22,000 lines of code changing.
What's that as a percentage of your total code base, Scotty?
40%.
Yep. So Scotty rewrote 40% of his code for this to make this happen. Now, again, you might be like, wow, you rewrote 40% of the code and it doesn't look that much different. But I assure you, it's a lot going on, and it unlocks so much more moving forward. It's like legacy migrations, right? You got to recreate first, which unlocks being able to improve. Can you show edit as Markdown? Sure. So this was a little thing that we slipped in the other day. I think that's a question for you to actually show it, Lindsay. So when you're in your visuals, you can, in your structural, and you're saying, I want this attribute, you can say display as text box or display as Markdown. Under pressure. Do 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 do. We're starting that karaoke you wanted, Kayla. Show of hands. Who'd be fun for a karaoke as a Friday Arvo Inspo Jam? All right. Yeah, here. No, well, no, not Inspo Jam, but isn't like instead like in the activity, Friday Arvo activity. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so let's go right now. So all right. So I just want to be I want to make a couple things pretty clear.
This is in prod.
So this is in prod right now. So when you have a text area here, you can say any text area, which is display as text area, will have this little expand button. If it's display as text area, you're just going to get a big text area here, just so you can see it better and a bit more. When you've got it set to markdown, there we got text area here and markdown. When you have it set to markdown, it's going to show a markdown editor. However, Lindsay, can you just put like a title in, something like that? It's not going to render the markdown on the diagram. I just want to make that very clear right now.
How do you markdown?
Put a new line before the hash. Put a space. Yeah, new line. Yeah, and then put a space after the hash.
Space after the hash.
Yeah. This man codes. Sorry to put you on the spot like that. All right. And then, so if you close that, so if you see there, it's not rendering as markdown there, but it just means that when you're using, models to define stuff that is going to go into markdown, it just does make that editing a little bit easier.
So the blank string input that is a text area, you want us to add bold stuff to it? It's a string.
Yeah, that's not its purpose. If you want it to have formatting, use markdown. That's kind of the thing. Like it's a raw string. It doesn't have formatting. It's just characters. So that's its way. And if you want it to have formatting, make it markdown. Unfortunately, we like it. That's just the difference between them. Otherwise, they would be the same thing. Come chat to me after if you want to talk more about it. We'll work it out. Yep. All right.